You know when I said that people don't think, I guess that hasn't really changed, and it applies across all fighting games and all circumstances, and another fighting game has come out by the name of Injustice Gods Among Us, and it seems that yet again people are impatient, people are like they can't think, they just can't learn how to deal when the simple solution is to either just deal with it or stop playing the game. Okay, so this is JusticeSoulTuna, another voice of JST, and the topic is about the infamous star of Injustice Gods Among Us that's basically creating so many problems. Apparently he's that bad, even though the game's been out for what, about a week or so. Obviously, Deathstroke, Slade Wilson, the character in Injustice Gods Among Us, is a zoner. Now, I think about 40% of the cast in Injustice are zoners, and zoning is actually pretty good. Just like in Mortal Kombat, zoning is actually a pretty viable tactic. And in some ways, like to some people, it's enjoyable. I mean, myself included. But obviously not everybody enjoys zoning, that's fine. Now, let me get this out of the way before you throw your preconceptions all over the walls. I would use Deathstroke. In fact, the first time I got to play Injustice, I used him. I like Deathstroke, I'm a fan of Slade Wilson, and I would like to play him. But the thing is, I would be lying if I said that I don't realize that his zoning is a problem, because it is. But that's the thing you need to understand. Deathstroke is a zoner, and he has combos, obviously. His combos do decent damage, and his zoning's really good because he's got the guns, you know, high gunshots, low gunshots, and the heavy gunshots, right? That's fine, and air gunshots as well, on top of that. But the thing is that what I don't seem to get is people are complaining about him already, fair enough, because, you know, people don't like zoning, people don't like keep away, people don't like being kept away full screen, that's fine. But the thing I don't get is, why don't people want to learn? This fighting game just came out, and people are using Deathstroke online and in tournaments, you know, shooting bullets at you from full screen, and instead of thinking, okay, now, what do I do about this? How do I deal with this? Like, what do? Do I block it? Do I, you know, have an invincible move that can go through it? Maybe I've got a projectile of my own, that kind of thing. People are already saying, oh, Deathstroke's too good, Deathstroke's a problem, you know, get nerfed. I recently watched the overreacting to Deathstroke video by Tom Brady, where he was basically talking about how some of Deathstroke stuff is punishable, and while I admit they were basically demonstrating how up close Deathstroke's gunshots are pretty unsafe. And some people said that was moronic because they're not talking about how to punish him full screen. But here's the thing, and I feel like maybe somebody needs to be choked for this because it's actually pretty mind-boggling how common sense it is. Why should you be able to punish a projectile from full screen? It's a projectile. Do you see people who play Street Fighter saying, oh no, that Ryu's projectile, it's too good from full screen, we should be able to stop him? He's full screen! What are you supposed to do about that? Nothing! Block it! Footsies, get close, get in there. Don't say, oh, that's so cheap, he's throwing projectiles from full screen, that's not fair, he should be punished for that. He's full screen. It's a bit like how if somebody threw a freaking, like, a freaking button out, like a limb, like if you did, like, standing medium kick, whiff, from full screen, it's not going to hit you, but you can't punish it either, even if it was unsafe. Similarly, if somebody shoots a projectile, if you either block it or jump over it, like, you know, that's a moot pretty much. Up close, yes, you have better options, you know, punishable options and all that kind of thing. But from far away, obviously it's not punishable, because the fact is he's a zoner, and oh my god, like this is the honest, this is probably the biggest point. Zoning characters, as we all know, are characters that excel at not at close range, not, you know, in long combos and mix-ups, but rather keeping the enemy away by using a variety of tools to, you know, shoot projectiles from a long range to earn their victory. A tactic which is just as viable as any other tactic, because the thing that, you know, a lot of gamers forget, a lot of people who play fighting games forget, is that zoning is not the only. It has never been, and it probably never will be. Zoning, and combos, right, go hand in hand, right? And what I meant to say is that combos, not zoning, combos are not the only way to play a fighting game. People seem to have forgotten, with all of the recent fighting games that employ incredibly long combos and comeback mechanics and all of these really ridiculous mix-ups and stuff, people have seemed to have forgotten what the core of any competitive game is. I'm not even talking about fighting games. The core of that is winning. Winning. Okay? The way to win is you press some buttons, it hurts the other person, and then they die. That may sound very bare bones to you, but that's the truth. That's what it is. You do some stuff on the screen, some pixels fly around, the other person dies. How you do that? Well, I don't see how that matters, because if the tools are in the game, they're there to be used. Since when did fighting games turn into do some combos or else your win wasn't legit? Is that what fighting games are now? Because I don't think so. Does it say when you purchase your copy of Injustice Gods Among Us, only use these characters that have combos and mix-ups, to be a good player? Or you're only allowed to use Flash, you're not allowed to use Green Lantern or Deathstroke or any of the zoning characters because that's unfair. Like, no, that's just people's subjective standards because they don't like zoning. And I'm not saying you have to appreciate zoning, but you're going to have to respect it, because if you're going to play that game, you're going to have to understand that some people, a lot of people in fact, are going to play zoning characters and use tactics from a distance. If you don't like it, stop playing Injustice. That's the honest truth. Like, from the little I've played of Injustice so far, I can honestly tell you that if you don't like zoning, if you don't like keep away, stop playing the game, because it's going to keep happening. It's going to be a legitimate tactic, and if you don't find ways around it, then you have no reason to complain. Like, if you don't spend the time to go into the lab to think of strategies, to think of ways around it, to do something about it, then you have no business playing the game. I mean, that's my honest opinion. That sounds harsh, but that's the truth. You can't copy and paste. You can't edit what you like about the game and take out the bits that you don't like. The game has just come out, and yet people are already saying nerf Deathstroke, nerf Aquaman, nerf all the zoning, remove all the zoning. It's like, it's insane. What were you expecting? Injustice combos Among Us? No, I was expecting Injustice Gods Among Us, a fighting game with superheroes who, last time I checked, a lot of superheroes have long-range moves. Last time I checked, Slade Wilson used guns. Last time I checked, Green Arrow uses arrows. Last time I checked, Green Lantern has a ring. Last time I checked, Batman has batarangs. Now, if you expected them to make a fighting game with these characters, and these characters not have these tools, then I don't know what you were thinking, because to be honest with you, as I said, it's not Injustice Combos Among Us, it's Injustice Gods Among Us, the fighting game with tools that are sometimes zoning and are sometimes combos, and that's the honest truth. So in regards to Deathstroke, like, you're going to have to deal. You're going to have to deal with it, because just like any other fighting game with zoning tools, you have to figure out ways around it. Some characters have more explicit tools, like Catwoman's got her dodge, her little like meow dodge thing, which is pretty cool, dodges projectiles. However, Batman can quite literally blow it up, because when he uses the meter burn on his batarangs, it blows up the projectiles, so she can't dodge it, right? So that's one thing. That's a zoning counter strategy and a counter to the counter strategy, and I think that's interesting. Like, that helps to the mind games and it helps to the enjoyment. So that's the first thing. It's nice enough that people could learn that, okay, there's characters with these anti-zoning tactics and stuff like that. Also, in the first place, some characters like the big ones, like Lex Luthor and Doomsday, they have super armor, so they can pretty much absorb a lot of the bullets. I mean, they'll take probably less chip damage as well. So there's that. There's a lot of strategies people can figure out to do it. People seem to feel like somebody's running away from them, full screen shooting stuff. So your first reaction is what? Nerf this character, it's not fair, Injustice is so lame, only people who appreciate this are fireball spamming people like Chris G and Marvel, and that to me is just so disrespectful in the first place. I don't want to get into that, but it's like, as I said, zoning is a viable tactic. Of course it is, just like any other tactic in the game, because really, a fighting game is all about how you use your tools and skills within the game's mechanics and the characters to beat the other characters. Combos are not the only thing. It's ridiculous. I find it so annoying how I hear people just whine about zoning and whine about keep away. Look, if you find it boring, if you don't prefer it, if you think that it's, not the way the game should be played, well, that's you. I'm sorry, live in your own little bubble. But for the rest of the world, in the world of tournaments where it's all about winning, then that's not the case. Tom Brady was right in the video. He said that people want instant gratification. People don't want to learn. And it's true. People don't. People don't want to spend the time to sit down and figure out how to get around the zoning. They just want to think that the game should somehow be, the game should somehow be changed already when these characters were put in there for a reason, to play like that for a reason. Like, I mean, what would you want? Deathstroke is a zoner. What do you want them to do to him? Make his I don't know, his gunshots minus 20 from full screen so anyone can, like, dash in. Like, people can already dash in. one thing I've learned, and one thing I've seen, is if you block Deathstroke's gunshots, you can dash in straight away. You block them, you dash in, because it's actually got a decent amount of recovery. So already you're very close to him. If you can prevent him from getting out of his spot, usually he's sort of backed himself into a corner. If you can prevent him from getting out of the corner, then you're fine. Obviously his mix-ups and his combos are another thing to deal with, but then again, there you go. It's like, people seem to want to have their hands held. It's like, oh, look at this challenging character. I can't be bothered to learn how to fight him, but I'm just going to whine and complain and have the devs patch him for me. You know, it's like, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I don't understand when gamers became so, like, you know, we can't learn anything. And actually, no, I hate saying that. I hate that whole became thing. I hate that whole, it used to be like this, it used to be like that. You know what I think? I think people have always been like that. I feel like people have always whined and you know, complained about stuff like this. We only know about it more now, purely because of the internet, and purely because of, you know, the community and finding out different people's opinions and stuff. But in regards to Deathstroke, like, genuinely, like deal with it. And that's not coming from a Deathstroke like player. That's not coming from a person who understands and appreciates zoning. That's coming from a person who's played like fighting games in general and just games overall, and understands that at the end of the day, if I'm not the one winning, then that's the part that matters, really. You know, do I agree with what the other person's do? Do I enjoy what the other person's doing? No, I don't enjoy it. But does that mean that I should, you know, be putting them down for it, that I should be hating on them for it? Not really, because at the end of the day, they're winning. If, you know, I need to be the one winning. If I'm the one winning, they'll probably not like it. In most circumstances, when one person wins and the other person loses, you know, the person who lost probably feels frustrated by what the other person did, regardless of what it is. For example, if combos were the be-all and end-all, then why do so many people hate, like, brainless rushdown, quote-unquote brainless rushdown, such as Zero in Ultimate Marvel, who basically makes you watch a movie? People say Morgan Doom is boring, but look how many people complain just as much about Zero and Virgil. You'd think, with the amount of people who complain about Keep Away and zoning, you'd think people would just love watching Zero and Virgil's endless combos, and yet they don't. Which is the funny thing to me. So it's like, oh wait, hold on. So Morgan's boring because of her zoning and stuff like that, but Zero's equally boring because his combos go on forever. Is there like a middle ground? Do we need like a scale where we need to like mark, say, okay, don't zone. That's too much, right? Sorry, no, don't zone. That's too little. But don't do too many. You know, don't do infinite combos. That's too long. Like, put it in the middle where the combos are cool, but they kind of end. It's like, what does that even mean? It's like, it's a fighting game. You're supposed to figure out ways to kill people, not ways to make it look entertaining but not unfair. I don't understand what people want. Maybe it's just Stream Monster mentality. The whole thing's ridiculous in my opinion. Like, so I think that, like, with the whole combos thing, it's I don't really understand why the majority of people, I feel like, well, not the majority, the vocal majority of people seem to harp on about and make it seem that combos are the only viable way of winning in a fighting game, or in a competitive game, that the only way to do it is to, just like in a shooter, for example, to run around instead of, as opposed to camping, or to do whatever. It's like, it's silly. It's like, the last time I checked, when the victory screen shows up, it's not going to say, no, you didn't win because of you zoning. It's not going to say that, and it wouldn't say, no, you didn't win because you used combos. So honestly, no matter which way you look at it, it's like, complaining about zoning is a bad thing in the first place. And the second thing is that the game has literally just come out. I can't believe people want so many people to be nerfed. It's like, nerf Aquaman, nerf Green Lantern, nerf this, nerf that. It's like, oh my god. I mean, if Injustice doesn't, get too much hate from the zoning alone, it's already just been completely swarmed by the ills of fighting game launches, where it's out for a short while and people will just shove their subjective opinions down your throat, that they just want you to, they just want you to think that, okay, this character's cheap and therefore you should think so, and everyone should think so, sorry. And because of that, we should just nerf them all. And look, I don't want to get into it. The point I wanted to make right now is that, like, just think. I said this in my Pandora one, I said this in my camping one, and I just need to say this in general. these are video games, people. This is not heart surgery. You don't need a PhD for this. You don't need an MD for this. You just need to literally sit down with your controller, your fight pad, or your fight stick, and you need to press some buttons and you need to think. Okay, that's all you need to do. And I don't know why that's so difficult for gamers nowadays. I don't know why it's so difficult to just think, to just figure out stuff, to take strategies and ideas and do something with it, to play the video game, to understand and learn the video game. I don't know why people can't do that. It's just, you know, you're gonna make all these excuses like it's impossible, or it's too hard, or, you know, he's overpowered, and it's like, oh my goodness. I don't even, nowadays I don't even argue with people like this, because it's like, look, if you're not willing to think and try and actually take the challenge of trying to do something with the fighting game and learn ways around it, or even just realize that your whining is pointless, because at the end of the day this character can be beaten and has been beaten, obviously, several times. Because if these situations were as bad as people made it sound, then like Deathstroke would win 10-0 against everybody 24/7, but that's not the case, obviously. So, you know, in regards to Deathstroke and Injustice Gods Among Us right now, like, people need to think. The game's just come out. People need to go into the lab to literally figure out strategies around them. I mean, like, don't be passive. I'm actually saying this. I mean, I'll stop being patronizing for a second. I'm actually going to give some sound advice. Don't be passive about it. Deathstroke is a great zoner. I'm not going to call him a problem, because, like, that implies that he is somehow unfair, that somehow him being full screen is stupid. But no, he's a zoning character who's meant to play, you know, from a distance, from a safe distance, far away, and shoot gunshots at you. Obviously he's got combos and he can rush down if he wants to, but the point is that he excels at zoning just as much, if not better, than his rushdown. So if to you that's, you know, an issue, then you need to go into the lab, you need to figure out what options your character has, or what options maybe you have given the situation to deal with him. You know, if he's gonna go for low gunshots, you block and, you know, dash forward. If he's gonna, like, you know, do gunshots overall, like heavy gunshots, if you scout it, then maybe you can jump. Maybe you're Superman, you've got a really good jump arc. If you see Deathstroke doing his standing heavy gunshots, like minus the meter burn, or if he just does normal gunshots, then just jump up and, you know, use your eye lasers. You're gonna hit him right there. You know, you get the knockdown, you can move forward. Or, you know, any other character who has some sort of a projectile from full screen to hit him, to knock him down at the very least, so you can get in there. Or maybe you have a character like Wonder Woman who's got an air dash. You know, you jump and you just, you know, dash straight towards him the second he tries to do low gunshots or something like that. Then, you know, you hit him with a jumping attack or something. Or what about Nightwing? Similarly, he has a very, like, good horizontal projectile. If you see, you know, if you suspect that maybe Deathstroke's going to do gunshots of some sort, maybe you'll jump up and just, you know, shoot your batarangs at him, do the meter burn for the extra damage, you know, and so on. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm just giving examples. There are several characters who have options against him, you know, who can do certain things to him that don't involve just standing projectiles. They don't involve just that. And I think that, as I said, if it just takes a bit of thought. People might say that, oh, well, what if he just does consistently? Well, not that he, you know, he could consistently, since it takes meter, but what if he just consistently does heavy gunshots meter burn for the anti-air? But then stop jumping then. I mean, it's like, it's common sense. Like, people complain about Green Lantern's, like, range on his force lift or whatever, but the fact is, like, if you're gonna keep jumping at him, what do you think's gonna happen? It's like saying, oh, Ryu or Ken's DP so cheap, I jump at him and I get hit by it. Well, then stop jumping then. Whose fault is that? If a character's got an anti-air, then stop putting yourself in the air, because you're gonna get, you know, anti-air. It's in the name, obviously. The name wasn't just said to be funny. It's called an anti-air for a reason. So similarly, if you feel like the player using Deathstroke will save up to do heavy gunshots, the meter burn, and probably do the move to anti-airs, then maybe just don't jump then, you know. So I don't know. I think people are content to complain, but they don't take that same conviction and do something about it. They're content enough to complain about it, but they don't take that same effort to actually do something about it. And all they then do is they defend their complaining, basically. when they couldn't just step out of their salt for a second, just take a step back and think, wait a minute, this is a video game character. I can probably do something about this. Or I could just complain and wait till he gets nerfed, just like, you know, characters get nerfed prematurely, like, you know, Marvel's Capcom 3 Sentinel and other similar characters who were just prematurely nerfed because people just could not deal with something with a game that's literally just come out, with a meta game that hasn't even really been discovered yet. So that's the first thing to think about. But, you know, all the things I've said just need to be taken into consideration, in my opinion. And I don't know, I think, you know, Slade Wilson is a very good character, but just like every other good character in the game, he's not God, he's not, you know, Rare Akuma, he's not this unstoppable force who, you know, will one-hit KO you at any time he wants to. He's a character with full-screen projectiles because he's a good zoner. And honestly, if I can sum this up in a phrase, just deal with it. Just deal with it, please, or just don't play the game. It's that simple. This is JusticeSoulTuna with another voice of JST. See you guys later.